Hey, good afternoon, Poe Nutrition Team. Hope you're having a great day today. See, I think it's super interesting to think about why we remember some things versus other things. Um, you could ask me what I had for dinner last night, and I'd really have to stop and think about it for a while. I've kind of forgotten. And yet there are moments in my life, and some of them may have happened years and years ago, and it may even seem really insignificant, but yet they're uh, so vivid in my memory. It's like they happened yesterday. I'm sure it's the same for you as well. I want to take you back to one such moment, and it's a high school basketball practice, and we're going through a drill of breaking the press, and I threw the ball away, which I did far too frequently for my coach's liking. And my coach, who is a great coach and an even more wonderful human being, one of the heroes in my life, he blew the whistle, stopped the practice, and asked me why I made that pass, why I made that stupid play. And I said, well, Coach, I assumed he was going to be there. I assumed he was going to get to that spot. So my coach, he used that opportunity to tell me a little bit about the word assume, which I think probably pretty much every high school coach has done. He said, Greg, when you assume, what you're doing is you're making an ass out of you and me. That's what the word assume means. And I think I can say the word ass on here. Well, anyway, I think this is fitting as we're talking about this whole concept of synergy, where the whole is greater than the sum of its parts, and an essential requirement to great team synergy is communication, effective communication, because I think that when we assume, we really derail effective communication. I believe it's really the root of most miscommunication, because we take our own experiences and our biases, and we assume things. We assume that people know exactly what we mean. We assume that people interpret things the way we want them to be interpreted. We assume that others understand our lingo or our terminology that we use. We assume we've been clear enough and frequent enough. We assume that people are up to speed with us. We may have had an idea rattle around our head for a long time, but we assume that someone else has been thinking about it too when it's brand new to them. But we make those assumptions. And we assume that people know the why to things. We've talked about how important the why is. If you said or asked me, said, Greg, I need you to stick your finger in this hole in the wall. Maybe I do it, depends how nice you ask me. But if you said, Greg, I need you to stick your finger in this hole in the wall, because if you don't, this room's going to flood and people are going to drown, including yourself. I tell you what, if I knew that why, I would stick my finger in that hole in the wall with more enthusiasm and dedication than you can possibly imagine, because I know the why. But we oftentimes assume that people know the why. So these assumptions lead to communication issues, and unfortunate thing is the people we make the most assumptions with are the people that we're closest to. I'm guilty of that. And I'm gonna pick my wife because she's especially guilty of that. I mean, she thinks I can read her flippin' mind. And I tell her that, we've been married almost 30 years, and I've never done it once. So, but she assumes that. So anyway, I'm getting a little off topic here. Maybe I'm the only one that experiences that in their marriage. But anyway, back on track. So assumptions can lead to miscommunication. So what are some practical steps that we can take to be more effective and not assume so much? Well, I think one thing is we can always start by level setting a conversation and making sure we're starting off on the same page. Again, I mentioned how sometimes there's something on our mind and we think the other person's up to speed. Well, maybe they're not. And I think it's important to understand our audience and make sure we're starting from the same point. I think another thing that we can do is we can just ask more questions. And as we've learned going through Dale Carnegie, asking open-ended questions. We can get more information by asking open-ended questions and make sure we're on the same page by doing that than just yes or no questions. And I think a final thing we can do is anytime a communication is ending, we can have especially the other party to the conversation, just explain what's next and make sure that we know in their own words that we're on the same page here. So I think there's some practical things that we can do to be more effective and make less assumptions in our conversations and our communication. Because oftentimes things don't go the way we had hoped they were planned. And we get frustrated with that. And sometimes we even get angry with that. And the natural thing to do is we do like I did in that basketball practice. I pointed to someone else because I assumed something. But really, it's on us. It's our assumptions that's the problem. And so we talk a lot about at Poet, one of the key things to our culture is parking our egos at the door. I think if we can also park our assumptions at the door, we can be more effective in our communication and create greater team synergy. So thanks for listening today. Have a great rest of the day. We'll be in touch. Bye now.